Hello, everybody, and welcome in to Texas Longhorns Live number 41. We really appreciate you guys being here. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. As it says down below, we are 5 subscribers away from 3,000. So we were 12 last week. We're 5 this week. But next week, we hope we're at 3,000. So please do that for us. And guys, let's jump into it because this usually doesn't happen. Timing usually isn't perfect like this, but it worked out this time. About an hour ago, Texas found the replacement for Terry Joseph, who just left actually yesterday, I believe, to join the New Orleans Saints as their passing game coordinator, which is the same title he got promoted to Texas not that long ago. And we found our new guy, our old guy, in Dwayne Aquino. So what is your opinion on this hire, Gerald?
Oh, yeah. No, I think if you're looking for somebody to teach X's and O's that knows the game, that's able to really coach up young defensive backs, there's not a better name out there than Dwayne Aquino. And this is one that Texas fans always kind of throw this out there when the opening is there that Dwayne Aquino, bring him home. And I honestly love the hire. I think especially with the way that the defensive staff skews in the secondary, the coaches are pretty young. So bringing in a seasoned guy like Dwayne Aquino, bringing in a guy who's got the cachet, like Dwayne Aquino is a name. If you know anything about coaching defense and coaching secondary, you know who Dwayne Aquino is, right? He's got great ability to teach. He's a great teacher, a great educator when it comes to coaching secondary. And, he's got something that a lot of coaches don't have in his position. He has a national championship ring with the school he's going to be coaching at, right? So when you come on campus for an on-campus visit and you want to meet with Dwayne Aquino, he's going to shake your hand with a big old 2005 national championship ring on his finger that says, hey, have you heard of Aaron Ross? Hey, have you heard of the Griffin brothers? Hey, have you heard of any of these dozens of guys I coached at this very school that won championships and also went and made a lot of money in the NFL? So he's got a great ability to come in and really be that teacher, be that elder statesman in that secondary group. I love the hire for 1,001 reasons.
Yeah, I like the hire as well. And it's funny you said that. Yeah, anytime anyone gets fired, hell, not even sometimes anyone leaves fired at Texas, he doesn't even have to be the secondary coach. Dwayne Aquino's name is just thrown in there as, hey, why don't we bring him in as an analyst? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? And it almost happened. Remember, last year, guys, this was very close to happening. We got Johnny Nansen from Arizona. Then Dwayne Aquino was on board for about 3 to 5 days. And then all of a sudden, Arizona's like, damn, we cannot lose him. So we're going to upgrade him to, I believe, defensive coordinator is what they ended up making him. Yeah. And then now he's back at Texas finally. And so we lose Terry Joseph, who was doing a fantastic job recruiting. I think development he was pretty good at. He's definitely not Dwayne Aquino. Like you said, the skins on the wall for Dwayne Aquino are high quality, guys. I mean, you brought him up, Michael Huff and those guys. Michael Huff is a Thorpe Award. He got a Thorpe Award winner, got him to the NFL. He has a lot of those guys that he taught and got to the NFL. And you see that with Steve Sarkisian. I think he has realized in the era of NIL, you don't really need to hire recruiters. And we'll talk about that a little bit with our new running back coach and also our new cornerback coach. They may not be great recruiters, but they do a good job at developing because guess what? NIL speaks more than the guys individually recruiting now. And we want these guys that can come in and develop. And that was also the thing with Kenny Baker. Kenny Baker was a guy that could come in and develop. He had NFL experience. He knew the X's and O's. And that's something Vernon Broughton brought up. Like he said, I feel like I'm being taught more now with Kenny Baker. He's more of a tactician. I feel the exact same way with Dwayne Aquino. I think it's a really good hire. Now, is it a long-term hire? No. I think Dwayne Aquino is probably going to be here maybe 3 to 4 years, and then it's going to pass the torch off to someone else because he is a pretty old guy. So we'll have to see how long he does stick around. But I will say he does like the University of Texas already being here, and we like what we got from him when he was here. So I really do like the hire.
Yeah, and I think, you mentioned the way that recruiting works nowadays, and I think there's something to be said, like the types of guys that Texas is going to be recruiting, NIL is not going to be an issue. They're going to get paid wherever they go. And so the recruiting pitch is what Texas is, right? The network that you get into, the ability to have that degree on the wall that has the Longhorn on it. You also, if you want to play at the next level, that's where you're really going to make your money. Because, yeah, an NIL deal is great in college, but let's get you to the pros. Let's get you to that second contract. And that's really what Dwayne Aquina can sell, right? Because, again, Aaron Ross, a Thorpe Award winner that played for the Giants and won a Super Bowl with them, right? There are all sorts of names that he can bring up like, hey, if you want this, I can get you there. And that's a lot of what recruiting is nowadays in the era of NIL with these elite guys. They're going to get paid. They know they're going to get paid regardless of where they go. So what is it? How is a team and how is a school going to set them up beyond what the school is going to do for them when they're on campus, right? How do they set them up for that next step? And that's what Dwayne Aquina does. He comes in, he's an elite teacher of the game. He's an elite ball knower, as the kids say, right? He is able to coach these kids up, get them to a point where NFL teams are going to want them and going to want the skills that they have. And so that, to me, is the best recruiting pitch out there in the era of folks getting paid.
Yeah, 100%. And also, when you look at it too, we didn't even mention some names. Nathan Vasher, I believe Earl Thomas was under him. Blake Gideon, who just left to become the Georgia Tech defensive coordinator, also under Dwayne Aquina. Like, he can point to that sort of stuff too. Like, look, I taught this guy everything he knows, and now he's the defensive coordinator of a college football team. And I think there's a realistic possibility that at some point Blake Gideon could be a head coach in college football or even like a defensive coordinator in the NFL. So even for those like lower level guys, he'd be like, hey, you may not have an NFL future, but you could have a coaching future, and I can teach you just as much about standing on the sideline and teaching young men as I can about teaching young men on the football field. So I think that's important as well too, because let's be honest here, guys, not every one of these guys that comes through here is going to be an NFL football player. Most of them won't be. So I think that's also an important and cool thing aspect as well when you're looking at it. And I think that's really important. And it's going to be interesting. I think the only issue you could possibly see with this hire is how does he relate to kids? And also, it is a big jump up for me, to be honest with you, from going from Arizona to Texas. But again, he has enough skins on the wall. I'm not that worried about it. Yeah, I am nitpicking this hire, guys. I really like the hire. I had a list of names written down. That's funny when I was preparing for the show. They don't matter anymore. I'll share them right now just because I did write them. And I had Mike Mickens, Notre Dame, Torian Gray, South Carolina, which if it was up to me, other than Dwayne Aquina, because I love the hire, that would have been my guy because I think he has like 20 years of experience. He's from Houston, and he's also coaching the NFL, so he checks like every box off that you possibly need to have checked off. So I would really like that hire. But hey, that's in the past. Maybe he's the next guy after Dwayne Aquina when he decides to retire. But I really like this hire.
Yeah, it's a great one, and we could talk about how much I love Dwayne Aquina all night, but when push comes to shove, incredible hire, and we just got to trust Sark to make these moves because he hasn't missed on a assistant coach or coordinator hire yet.
No, he hasn't. He's done a fantastic job of that. And that's the cool thing too, guys. Like, these guys aren't leaving because Sark's going to get fired or anything like that. They're leaving to take higher level jobs. The Char Choice went to the Lions. I can't be angry at a guy for going to the NFL. Terry Joseph, same thing, went to the Saints. The other hire was now I'm losing it. Blake Gideon, Georgia Tech. Yeah, thank you. Georgia Tech defense coordinator. So he's getting a promotion. No one's leaving for level jobs, guys. That is not happening under Steve Sarkisian. They're taking jumps up, which is a sign of a healthy football program. And I know it sucks. But hey, if you want to be good at this thing for a long time, you're going to have to do what Nick Saban did, which is constantly recycle your staff and be good at the hires you do get.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this, like you said, it's a sign of a healthy program, and it makes it a more attractive place when the time comes to replace it. Like, hey, your next step here can be your big job, right? If you want to go be a defensive coordinator at a Power 5 school, boom, we've done that, right? You want to go coach in the NFL, boom, we've done that twice, right? That is a selling point for coaches. You want your coaching staff to get poached for head coaching jobs, for coordinator jobs, for promotions. Because again, it shows that one, what you're doing is working, and you can do that for the next guy in the room. And so the up and comers, the hungry coaches, the ones that are really go-getters are going to want to work for you. It's why they wanted to work. Everybody wanted to go to the Saban rehab program, right? Because they knew he could get them right, get them out the door, and get them a big job. And hopefully that's what Texas can turn this into.
100%. So again, guys, Dwayne Aquina hired, takes the place of Terry Josephs in the secondary. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Again, we are 5 away from 3,000. So we really appreciate that. Also, we have this to share for you as well. I left it in the comment section. So please check that out. Get your business product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the voice of college football. Let's discuss how you can also reach your target market. Check out the experience of one of our current partners posted on the screen. We are here to deliver for you guys. So contact right there in the comments. If you know anyone, share that out with them. It can really help us grow the brand, the channel, put a little bit of money in each of our pockets here at the Voice of College Football. So we really appreciate that. As you see that message from Lisa Wynn over at the Win Agency. So we really appreciate that. So let's go over to the next topic, Gerald, which is Chad Scott hired as the new running back coach for Texas. Let's talk about this a little bit. So Chad Scott coming over from West Virginia. He takes the place of Tashard Choice, who didn't get the Cowboys job, but did go and decide to go to the NFL, to Detroit Lions. Some experience for him. He's the Troy running back coach, or was Texas Tech running back coach, Kentucky running back coach. And this is what I really liked and what sold me on this one, guys. At West Virginia, he was their OC/running back coach. And then when Neil Brown got fired, he was their interim head coach, which tells me a lot about him as to why he got picked for that West Virginia interim head coach. What do you think of this hire, Gerald?
Yeah, I think it's a good hire. It's not one that I think a lot of folks expected. It's not the big splashy name that I think a lot of folks were wanting to see. Folks were wanting to bring back Stan Drayton, who ended up at Penn State. One of my best friends is a Penn State grad. I texted him like, "Hey, enjoy that because Stan's going to be great." But I think he is a solid recruiter, but again, he is a coach. He's a developer. You look at, he coached up a guy at Texas Tech, the Texas fan. Remember, Baron Batch is a guy who was a pain in our keister for a couple of years at Texas Tech. He coached up Letty Brown at West Virginia, who went from a 400-yard rusher to back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons at West Virginia. It's like, he's a guy who's going to develop some of these backs. And one of the things that I really like about his if you go look at his history, he's been really good at managing a running back by committee situation where it hasn't been a ton of featured backs. Yeah, Letty Brown was the guy for a couple of years. Yeah, Baron Batch. But more often than not, there's 2 or 3 guys that are each hitting 700, 600 yards apiece. And I think that is the wave of the future for running backs and for running back rooms, especially with what Texas has right now. They've got a ton of talent in that room. They've got a ton of guys that want to play, but also they want to go to the next level, right? And a way to attract running backs, especially because running backs, very short shelf life, hard to get to that second contract. And a way to do that is to have a few fewer hits to the body. And so being able to manage a unit that has multiple guys in there, keep those folks happy, keep them around, keep them in touches while also developing them for the next level. I think it's a great hire. I think he's a guy who really you can trust to steward that room that has already been built.
Yeah, 100%. So when I looked into him, it was a little bit disappointing to look at the guys he did recruit because he's never landed a top 50 recruit. But then you also have to look at where he's been. Let's be honest, Kentucky, West Virginia, Texas Tech, up until recently, haven't been places where you're able to land that guy. So that was a little worrisome. But again, when I go back to the point that I made about Dwayne Akina, I don't think recruiting at one-on-one is the same anymore. So I'm really not that worried about it. Yeah. What I'm worried about is development. And like you said, he's done a good job. Hey, these are like 3-star recruits. He's developed them to where they reach that next level. A guy that's really, really good, and I like since he's been at West Virginia and now he transferred to Ohio State, is C.J. Donaldson.
Yep,
C.J. Donaldson is a really, really good running back. And he's going to have a really good year at Ohio State. And I think he's probably going to end up being like a 3rd-round draft pick when he decides to come out after next year. And this is a guy that was under Chad Scott. So I really like that. I also like that you pointed out by the committee, because let's be honest here, Texas has like 5 or 6 guys that could take carries this year, and they could legitimately earn those carries. Yeah. C.J. Baxter, Ricky Stewart, Christian Clark, Trey Wisner, all those guys are capable of running the football for this team. I didn't even mention a couple other guys. So I really do like that hire. I'm hoping he can keep developing like Tashard Choice could. I think right now, you have to say Tashard Choice was a much better recruiter. But again, he was at Texas recruiting these guys. Now, I will say he did recruit Jahmyr Gibbs to Georgia Tech. So that was a really good one. And he did a really good job with that, which is hard to get a guy like that to Georgia Tech. So we'll see how he does recruiting-wise. But I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt for sure.
And again, you mentioned it when we talked about Dwayne Akina. Recruiting is very different nowadays. Recruiting is, again, the types of guys that Texas is recruiting are going to get paid wherever they go, right? If they're going to go to Texas, Alabama, Oregon, A&M, LSU, they're going to get that check. They're going to get that bag. So it doesn't really it doesn't have a ton, like NIL doesn't really matter as much. So you're selling Texas, you're selling what you can do to get them to the next level. And I think Chad Scott's a guy who could sell both of those things. He's also got Florida ties, so you like having that. Texas has been really successful going into Florida, especially at the running back position, like being able to go into Florida, grab a running back or two from the Sunshine State. So having the Florida ties with him, he's been around the country. He's got some experience recruiting in Texas as well. He spent 3 years, like you said, at Texas Tech. So he's a guy who's got a varied experience, a varied background. And also, again, he's been a guy who's developed guys and gotten up to the next level.
100%. And that's, I mean, again, super important because, again, anyone in the top 20, 25 as a program in college football can promise you a certain amount of NIL. Texas may be able to offer a little bit more, but let's be honest here. If you can make way more money, like you said, in the NFL, like that second contract in the NFL, that's like chump change of what you're going to get paid in college. It does not matter. It will not make that much of a difference. I think that's a good thing when you can put out guys like, hey, this guy's a 3-star recruit, but I got him to the NFL. Hey, this guy's like a 2-star recruit, but I got him to the NFL. That's a really big selling point. So we'll see how he does. Grading this higher, how would you grade it?
I think it's a solid, like it's hard to grade it, but I would say like a B plus. Like it's not, again, like there are the unicorn hires, right? There is Tashard Choice, right? There is maybe Stan Drayton is, I would say, like Penn State probably gets an A plus for getting Stan Drayton, but like a B plus, even probably an A minus, like a solid coach, can recruit and has a history of developing guys up, managing a running back by committee. Like I think he checks all the boxes.
Yeah. So when I just look at him, I would say B minus, but then when I go into how Sark has done getting guys on staff and how they've done when they get there, he's a B to me. Like that raises at least like a quarter of a letter grade, half a letter grade, whatever, because he really hasn't missed. Like I haven't looked at anyone and be like, man, that was a bad hire. I mean, he's nailed Chris Jackson. He's nailed Jeff Banks. He's nailed Kyle Flood. He's nailed basically everyone. So
the guy that folks were calling his hiring bust just got hired to be a DC at Georgia Tech, right? We were just talking about Blake Gideon getting hired away to be a DC. That was the one that folks were hating on, and he just got hired for the big job.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing too. Like, if that's your worst guy, then you're doing a hell of a job. And also, it's just Sark has done everything right. There's really nothing for me to bitch and complain about with him. So I'm not going to start that now. Let's jump over to this guy, Mark Orphy, corner coach, replacing Blake Gideon. Again, sucks to see him leave, but this guy was a defensive analyst at Bama 2021. So there is a little connection right there with Steve Sarkisian. He was a secondary coach. Here's another one at Montana State with Jeff Choate, who just left to become the Nevada head football coach. So a little bit of a connection there. No doubt in my mind, Steve Sarkisian asked Jeff Choate, who is a really good football coach.
Love Jeff Choate.
Hey, what do you think about this guy? He probably gave him a good grade, and he's like, you know what? Let's hire him. He's developed Christian Braswell into an NFL pick who was at Rutgers. He developed Max Melton, who was a second-round pick and is the highest pick from Rutgers since 2010. So this guy, to me, is a really, really good hire. The development is there. He's got experience. He gets check marks from certain coaches because, again, I'm sure Nick Saban had good things to say. Otherwise, Steve Sarkisian probably wouldn't have hired him. So what do you think about this hire?
And you can't also doubt that, one, he's from North Shore. He's a Houston guy, so he's got that connection there as well. And then also, Rutgers had their best pass defense the last couple of years since joining the Big Ten, right? And he's a part of that group. That's partly credited to him, right? So I think this is a great hire. And again, I think especially with Dwayne Akina now coming in, I think we have the benefit. Like I made my notes before we knew about Dwayne Akina, but like even with the benefit of like knowing that Dwayne Akina is coming in, right? Having somebody like Akina and a guy like Orphe, who is a bit of a younger coach, he's got kind of an up and comer. You kind of pair him with a guy like Dwayne Akina, and I think it's like a multiplier effect. He's shown that he can get a 3-star guy, who I'm trying to think of the last Rutgers guy to get drafted, out after those two, like Ray Rice. Like, I'm not sure who in the NFL who's got Rutgers skins on the wall, right? It's like he's gotten lesser talented guys. So giving him better raw materials, it's a win-win. I think it's a great hire.
Yeah, I agree. When I saw that and he was putting like we said, lesser tier guys in the NFL, developing them at a level that hasn't been seen at that program before, that's immediately a big check mark for me. And then obviously, guys, I'm a big Jeff Choate fan. What he did at Nevada this year is underrated. Nevada was a terrible football program, and I believe they won like 4 or 5 games this year. So they almost beat SMU the first game of the season. They probably should have beat SMU. So
they were a couple of one possession games away from a bowl. They were right there.
Yeah, like I would be shocked if they don't make a bowl game this year. So for me, Steve Sarkisian 100% called him. He 100% said, yes, I like this guy. No issue with hiring him because he was a secondary coach. So he's going to be the same position at Texas. So I love this hire. To me, this is, like I said, I don't think the Chad Scott's is a bad hire, but I think this is like an A hire. I don't think Texas could have done much better with a guy that can develop like this.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think he is absolutely a guy that Texas and I think he's a guy who's going to be a fast riser. And I like him. I wouldn't get super attached to him because I think he's a guy who's going to come in, have a couple of good years at Texas, and then be off to bigger and better things. And not necessarily like in a bad way, but like we talked about with Terry Joseph leaving, with Blake Gideon leaving. Like this is a place that is going to get you to your goals. You come here, you kill it for 3 years, and then you get your big job. Like this is a guy, Mike Orfe, who's going to probably be on that track, right? He's a guy who's going to come in, be really good for a couple of years for Texas, and then get a DC job or get an NFL job. And that is how you want it to go.
100%. Like we said, as long as they're climbing the ladder of going when they leave Texas, we're all for that. We don't want to go back to like the Tom Herman, Charlie Strong days where the people were trying to jump off the boat of the Titanic because they knew they were going to drown if they stayed there. So it's a complete 180. We love the flip. It sucks to see him leave because we're losing a lot of big coaches. And I will say this too. We haven't lost the key coaches yet. It's going to be interesting if Kyle Flood decides to leave. What is that going to look like? That does scare me. I'm not going to lie about that. When Jeff Banks, if he decides to leave, that's going to scare me. How do we replace that? But those are really the two of like core guys that Sark needed and wanted, and they've been here the whole time. With the other guys around him, I'm not that worried when they leave. I'm just not.
Yeah, I think I mean, we're going to have to be prepared for some of those eventualities to happen. I think Jeff Banks still wants to be close to his kids. So like, that's something that you can put in your back pocket, right? He'll probably be around for a little bit. Kyle Flood did the Rutgers thing, didn't go very well. What does he want to do? Like, is he happy being the OC at Texas and being the offensive line coach and just, getting paid really well to do so and live in one of the coolest places in the world? I don't know. Maybe. Like, I don't know what his career aspirations are, but like, we have to be prepared for that eventuality that some of these key coaches are going to leave. And again, that's the rub of being an elite program. Folks at Alabama felt this way when Kirby Smart left. Folks felt this way when Steve Sarkisian left, right? Folks felt this way. They didn't feel that way when Lane Kiffin left because that's a whole other conversation. But like, again, when you're an elite program and you've got guys who are doing great things, it's just part and parcel of being a top tier program.
No, 100%. So that does it for the two hires. We really appreciate you guys sticking around. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe and let us know in the comments. Did Texas nail these hires or not? If they didn't, give us your solution. Who would you have liked to seen? And then also, guys, again, can you please try and find a sponsor or if you know a sponsor that wants to sponsor the show for any show? It doesn't have to be our show. It can be any show on the network. Please do that. You have right there out of another sponsor's mouth, the Win Agency. They say we do a good job. Again, get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the voice of college football. Let's discuss how you also can reach your target market. Check out the experience of one of our current partners posted on the screen. We are here to deliver for you. Again, guys, contact the email in the comment section below. Please do that. We really appreciate it. Let's jump over to this next one. So, Ethan Feaster, or Booby Feaster as he's known, reclassified from 27 to 26, and that set everyone ablaze because this guy's been talking about for like 2 to 3 years. He's a big time recruit in Texas. I think he was a 5-star in 27. He's only a 4-star right now. I suspect he will be a 5-star by the time he signs. He's a really, really good product out of DeSoto. Gerald, what do you think about him, and how hard do you think Texas needs to go after him?
So those are two very different answers. I think one, I think like he's legit. He is. I don't want to say this, but like when you look at guys that reclassify, they are the elite of the elite, right? Ryan Williams came in at Alabama and lit the world on fire, right? Quinn Ewers reclassified and ended up at Ohio State. Again, that's a different, but like the guys that reclassify end up being guys who start day one on campus just because they're so freaking good. And I think Booby Feaster is another one of those guys who can come in and really push for playing time early on, which kind of goes to the other answer. Like, yes, obviously you've got an elite kid in your home state that reclassifies, that gets in. Texas is obviously going to be pushing for him, but my like caveat to that, if you look at kind of the tea leaves right now, right, like the teams that are getting summer visit from him: Miami, USC, A&M, LSU, like USC, I think is in that mix as well, right? They're in very different situations at the wide receiver spot than Texas is, right? Texas just got a haul of guys, 3 elite guys, a couple of elite guys before. There's a lot of depth in the Texas wide receiver room. Those other schools that were mentioned, unfortunately, don't have as much elite talent in there, especially again, Texas landed three top of 200 guys at wide receiver this year, right? Just elite class. And a guy who reclassifies wants to play early, right? They want to play early. They want to get on the field ASAP. And so, and this is no shot at the kid. I don't blame him. Like, he may be looking at schools that have a little bit less depth in the wide receiver room, a little bit of an easier path to the field. So Texas absolutely needs to push him. Texas absolutely needs to try to get him. And I would be through the roof if Texas was able to land him. But I think Texas fans need to reconcile with the fact that, like, Texas's success wide receiver recruiting in 25 may be the reason why this newly 26 guy doesn't end up in Austin.
No, I think that's a really good point. Like you said, we got 3 top 15 wide receivers in the last class, 2 top 10 guys, and we were in the running for like another 2 guys in the top 10 with Gorian Moore and Dallas Wilson as well. So we went really hard. We got the guys we wanted for the most part in last class. This guy, to me, is a must get. But again, like you said, it's going to be hard because the teams I see right now that are like leading, Steve Wiltfong on 3 said it was LSU, Miami, and USC, I believe. If you look at all 3 of those teams, to me, that just says NIL out the you-know-what, because all those teams are going to be throwing bags at this kid. Because, one, LSU really needs difference makers. Like, Brian Kelly's on the hot seat. He's going to spend whatever it takes. USC sort of is that same thing. And then Miami's been the biggest. Them and A&M have thrown the biggest bag since the NIL started. That's what they do. That's what they try to money whip people to come there. Because, no offense, they don't really develop.
And they need dudes. They need wide receivers.
Yeah, 100%. They most of their guys transfer in, play a year or 2, and then transfer out or go to the NFL. So they don't really recruit out of high school very well at that position. He does have a Texas schedule or a visit scheduled, which I didn't know. I actually found this out like literally half an hour before we started the show. March 29th, he will be at Texas. We'll see if that stays. I don't know if it will happen. LSU, you already named some of the other ones, but LSU March 13th, Oregon April 25th, and then Bama's getting the first visit March 6th. So those visits, and then also the summer visits. Right now, he does not have anything scheduled for the summer. So I think that's important for Texas to get him back on campus for the summer, knock this out of the park in March, and then do that. But this guy is special. I mean, right now, he's already rated as the 5th wide receiver in the class. He's going to move up. My opinion is he will end up number 2. I think Chris Henry Jr. is number 1. He will end up number 2. I think Chris Henry Jr. is just too special. I think he's just a bigger version of Booby Feaster. Booby Feaster is only 6.5 or 6 foot, about 1 inch tall, and then he's also 175. But this kid is insane. Like, guys, as a 7th grader, he ran a 11.29 100 meter dash. That's insane as a 7th grader to be running that. Right now, for example, Khalil Lockett, senior year, I believe, ran 11 flat. So he was only 0.2 of a second behind Khalil Lockett as a 7th grader. I have no clue what his time would be right now. It's probably like a 10.5 or something like that. It'd be something crazy. He's a speedster. He's got big hands. He literally checks all the boxes. He is a perennial special type player coming out of high school.
Yeah, and like I said, guys that reclassify, when you, especially at the skill positions, Ryan Williams, you think of Storm Duck, I think a couple years ago at UNC at cornerback, right? Like, those guys that reclassify are like the elite of the elite, and they're going to come in and they're going to be able to play right away. And again, I think that is probably a negative for Texas in this recruitment, is that there's a little bit more for him to work through to get to the field. But yeah, he is the elite of the elite. He's got everything you want: track speed, big body, big hands, able to high point the ball. Like, he has got everything you want out of a wide receiver. And so he is a guy that, again, I would love for him to be in burnt orange. Do not hear me saying anything other than that. I would be through the roof if Texas was able to land this kid. based on everything I'm seeing and the vibe I'm getting, it is Texas has a little bit of ground to make up. But I would love to have him elite talent, elite speed, the kind of guy that comes in and lights the world on fire.
Yeah, and it goes against logic. Like you said, like he's reclassifying for a reason. Like if he goes to Texas and sits, he's going to be like, well, I could have just been playing my senior year of high school instead. This guy is reclassifying because, one, he wants the money, because I still believe Texas has the rule where you can't capitalize on NIL in high school, one. And two, he wants to be able to play. So that he's not, unless he is, I don't know, like second or third team All-American type freshman year, he probably wouldn't see the field at Texas. He just wouldn't, because let's be honest here, Ryan Wingo and the is still going to be at Texas no matter what, and he would be wide receiver 1 in his third year. There's no doubt in my mind about that. DeAndre Moore, unless he has like an absurd year, will probably be back as well. So that's 2 guys right there. So then you're having like 9 guys fight for a third spot of getting a lot of playing time. I just don't see that happening. So it does suck. That's the thing. It sucks. It sucks. We're going to probably see him play for someone else because he is that damn good. But we are also stacked at the wide receiver position.
Like the man said, that's one of those good problems.
Yeah, it's true. It is. It's a very good problem. So that does it for the Ethan Booby Feaster, which I know, crazy name. When that came out, everyone is, making fun of that on Twitter. I was wondering when that was going to catch on, because I think everyone in the Texas circles kind of knew about him down in Texas, and then it went national and the people are going crazy with it. So again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Next up, we're going to talk June visitors. So I'm going to run through the list, and then we're going to break down like 5 or 6 of our favorite ones, because guys, this is a very, very long list that could get longer because there's still some guys on here that haven't decided. Caden Finley will be visiting in June. Chris Stewart, who is committed to the University of Texas, wide receiver, will be visiting in June. Felix Ojo, visiting in June. Toa Katoa, visiting in June. Zayden Krempin, visiting. John Turntine III, visiting. Nicholas Robertson, visiting. Max Wright, who's committed to Texas, visiting. Tiasin Elowoko, I probably butchered that last name, from Georgetown, linebacker from Texas, visiting. Tank King, one of my favorite players in here. I don't have him on my list, but I do love him. I also love the name. Visiting. Kosi Akapola, visiting. Chase Calicut, visiting. Jalen Lott, visiting. Jermaine Bishop, visiting. And then this one, to be set up. I don't think it's going to happen. Javian Osborne already said he's not going to visit Texas. Now, I did say give a specific date. So I will say this. He could always come to Texas and be like, well, I just said that date. But for right now, with Tashard Choice leaving, I do think Michigan is the runaway favorite as of right now. I'd be shocked if Texas made up enough ground there. But again, long period of time, we'll have to see. KJ Edwards might be visiting as well. Caden Dixon Wyatt visiting. Mark Bowman visiting, who also reclassified to this class, and I really like him as well. Luke Sorensen visiting. Cody Green, who we talk about. Check out that video. Visiting. Sam Utu visiting. Naheem Burrows visiting. Samuel Rosenborough visiting. Let's see. Out of Georgia, Aaron Gregory. Out of California, visiting. Hayes Kent visiting. Caden Protho, again, Texas late on him, but they're getting into it. I think this is a big one. I'll talk about him more. Bryce Perry Wright visiting. Jabari Mack visiting. Dylan Perrymore visiting. Kendall Gerville visiting. Justice Fitzpatrick visiting. Aaron Gregory visiting. So this is a very long list of guys visiting. We're not going to talk about all of them because we would be here for a very, very long time, guys. And there's like literally 20 more guys that could visit. Like there could be 70 to 100 guys coming to Texas in June. We're going to talk about 5 to 6 of them that stick out to us and that we love to get. Jared, I'll let you start out.
Yeah, I think one of the ones that you didn't mention is Xavier Crowell is a guy who canceled. He was another one that canceled his visit when Tashard Choice left. They managed to get him. Chad Scott managed to get that visit back on the books. So getting him in, I think it's like early June, like June 6th or something like that. Whatever that first Saturday or whatever the first weekend in June is. But getting him back on the list, I think was a huge win. Texas needs a running back in this class. I think Texas is one running back a year kind of school. And so with Osborne kind of falling to the wayside with Choice leaving, I think getting Crowell back on the list is one that jumped out to me. You mentioned Turntine, Roberson, Finley, Bishop. They're all coming in on the same weekend, actually, I think. okay, so like that June 20th is going to be the one to watch. I think you're going to see a lot of commits come out of that weekend. Maybe not directly out of that weekend, but you're going to see a lot of like, oh, there's a couple of silent commits, and then guys that go public later in the process are going to show up and say, yeah, I committed on the 20th, and it just, we wanted to hold it or whatever it might be. So yeah, like that, like you mentioned, all those offensive linemen coming in, get them all, like all the beef that we can in the class. That's how I love to live my life. Caden Finley makes me feel super old. I see the grays in my beard showing up really well when I talk about him because I was on campus when his dad was there. So but he's another guy. I think when you talk about getting great receivers from in-state, he's one of those ones that I think could be a difference maker for Texas. So I did talk a lot, but I think the one again that jumps out is Xavier Crowell, getting him back on the schedule. And then that June 20th, like that list is going to be one to watch.
No, 100%. So I have 5 guys written down here. One of them, and I kind of like this because they're all from different neck of the woods. Like I like that Texas is finally hitting certain states harder than they used to. We see that with Florida. We see that with Georgia. I think you're seeing that with Louisiana as well. And this guy is from there. Dylan Berrymon from Louisiana, 6'1.5", 305, 4-star recruit. I think he's more of an inside guy.
Yeah.
Maybe lose weight and slide out outside, but I doubt that. I think he's more inside. And I think, again, this fits into the mold of not a finished product. Texas wants guys that they can, one, put meat on the bones of, which you can definitely do with this guy because I think he's going to grow more. And then just plays with an intensity. And he definitely does that. He can get after their passer a little bit. And again, you get your hooks in Louisiana. Louisiana is a really, really good football state, and it's really hard to get guys out of there because they basically brainwash them. They really do. Like, guys, if you realize all the high schools are named Tigers, and they're all purple and gold for a reason. It's because they want to funnel them to LSU. So anytime you can get this guy on for a visit, and you can try to get him committed to the University of Texas, it's a big deal, not just because of getting him, but getting your hooks into Louisiana. So that's why I have him on the list. A guy that I really, really like, Caden Prothro. We have a video on him with Leanne from the Old Miss channel. She does recruiting news for us as well. She said Texas is going to come hard here. They came late, but they're going to come hard. He is 6'6", 210 pounds. This screams a guy to me. You can put 20 pounds on him, and if you can teach him to block and be an average blocker, this is a first-round pick in the NFL. That's what he could be. With those measurables, what I've seen on tape, he's fast, he's strong, he's physical. He's got what you want from a guy that size is be able to play the ball in the air very well. Guess what? He does that really well, guys. Yep. So this is a guy that I would love, absolutely love for Texas to get. Again, we came late here. We'll see if we can come on hard and strong and get him. But it'd be really nice to get him. And again, from Georgia, that's a big deal when you get your hooks into Georgia, which I believe per capita produces the most NFL players now. So really good state to get a hold of. Naheem Burrows, I think, is a very underrated wide receiver. And also, I love where he's from, Florida. Florida produces just different wide receivers, guys. Go look at the NFL. Go look at the guys. That Bama team that Steve Sarkisian called plays for, Jerry Jeudy from Florida. I believe Henry Ruggs is from Florida. I'm not sure about Devontae Smith, but a lot of those guys on that roster were from Florida. They just present a different attitude, a different grittiness, and he fits the profile of what Sark wants. Track speed. We know what Sark loves about that. Track speed. He also has big hands, big catch radius, and he's only 5'11". But again, big hands, big catch radius, along with track speed. We know Sark loves that type of stuff. So really important when we get him. And then another guy who's a little bit bigger, but again, kind of a track speedster, Caden Dixon-Wyatt from California. We're more of a coast-to-coast team now, guys. Like I said, reaching out there with Sark's old ties. Johnny Nansen also helps with that. So I think it'd be awesome to land him. And that's the thing, too. If you're not going to get an Ethan Booby Feaster, then guess what? If you can land one or two of these guys that are a little bit more developmental but fit your mold, I'll sign up for that. I'm fine with that. And then Bryce Perry Wyatt, he's also from Georgia. 4-star, top 50 player. And this guy isn't your prototypical defensive lineman. He's 6'2", 250, so a little bit light for an interior defensive lineman, but again, can put on a little bit more weight. He's not a tactician right now, but we've talked about that. Kenny Baker, that is his job. That's what he said he's good at. He's good at teaching guys what they need to do, but this guy plays with a very high motor and really good energy, and he's also got very thick legs, which is very important to play defensive line. So I like those are my 5 guys that I'm looking at. Got a little bit of from each position, a little bit from each part of the country, and I think that's very important for Texas moving forward to hit all of those needs.
Yeah, I mean, Texas has done a really good job of establishing inroads in traditionally SEC dominated areas. And I think it's why Texas moving to the SEC is huge, right? Being able to go into Florida and say, yep, we've got a game against Florida. We've got a game against Florida every couple of years, going into LSU, being able to say that, going into Georgia, being able to say that, right? Being able to make inroads into these traditional SEC places that frankly, they were relatively shut out of for most of their time, right? Most of Texas's national recruiting really was California and a little bit of Louisiana, maybe, but a lot of it was out west, right? Aaron Bijan Robinson was an Arizona kid, right? So a lot of it was out west California, again, Pacific time zone, those types of places. So being able to go into traditional SEC places and grab kids and be able to say, nope, you're coming to Texas. Nope, you're coming to Texas is going to be huge. And again, I mentioned this already, like John Turntine being on the schedule already, having Felix Ojo on the schedule already is huge, right? Those guys are guys that you need to land, especially with whatever quarterback situation it's going to be, right? They're not going to block for Arch. They're going to be blocking for probably Diabell, but like get those guys into the class, get them on campus. I think one is on the 13th, one is on the 20th, right? So again, those are two elite guys that I think are must-haves in state. When you have elite offensive linemen in the state, you have to land them. And so those are the ones that jump to mind for me.
Yeah, and I think something important as well, because we talked about Diabell possibly leaving. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
And also, but he hasn't scheduled a summer visit, so I think that's important. And then also scheduling him at the right time. Get him in there with guys like offensive linemen, like you said, to create a relationship with those guys so they can, when they come to Texas, they already have that built-in chemistry and stuff like that. So wide receivers, offensive linemen would not shock me at all if that's what Texas is doing. They get all of them on like the same weekend and then say, hey, Dia, come this weekend so you can be around these wide receivers and offensive linemen. You see that a lot of the time, so I think that'd be very important. And then one thing, we got to start recruiting the DMV. That's the only part of the country we do not recruit that well, and they produce some very high-level football players. They've been doing that, especially the past decade. That's like the one part of the country we have yet to hit on, really.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, they do great. Like a lot of those guys end up at Big Ten schools, so like it kind of is just a regionality thing. I don't know, maybe higher. They've got coaches that have, some East Coast experience now. You talked about, Orphy was a guy who I think had spent some time at Rutgers. So like maybe getting the DMV that way. I'm not sure.
Yeah, 100%. But they produce. Hey, by the way, basketball team, you can do the same thing because you suck right now. So maybe get up there. Because guess what? The last guy that came here, I believe, from that area was Kevin Durant. So maybe we should just look up there for every sport. So yeah, we did pretty good on that one. But again, guys, that does it for the June visitors. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out. Also, guys, again, check out if you want to sponsor the channel right there. We have a message from the Win Agency. They have done a really good job with John and TJ over there. And they've been a sponsor for a while now because guess what? It's working. So again, get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. Let's discuss how you can also reach your target market. Check out the experience of one of our current partners posted on the screen. We are here to deliver for you. And again, guys, I left the email in the comment section, so please check that out. I really appreciate you guys doing that. Next up, we'll talk about like a hot topic that's been going around across the country. A lot of teams have done this. I've seen mixed reactions from multiple people. I feel like diehard fans hate it. The national media as a whole doesn't really care. So I want to get your opinion on it, Gerald. Do you care that the spring game is canceled?
Like, do I care? Yeah, I think it's a cool thing, right? It's fun to go out and have the event and have the fan events and all of that. But like from what college football is right now, it makes sense to me, right? You're playing more games than you ever have. Texas, it used to be, you'd be off from December to, February, March, right? And now they're playing into deep into January. And so like football is a physical, violent game. And so giving guys more time to rest up, to heal their bodies, right? I think being able to mirror and Texas is going to be mirroring kind of what the NFL does from their schedule. And so, it works for them and they play even more games and even deeper into the year. So I think it's something to monitor. Again, I love watching the spring game. I love being able to, my kids and we all get together, we watch it, we have a good time. So I get that, right? You're losing a tradition, you're losing that, but based on what college football is now and the schedule that it has, it makes sense logistically for it to go away. Am I sad? Yeah, absolutely. I love the orange and white game, but from a logical standpoint, from a here's a tradition going by the wayside. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, so Sark actually, this is his quote on it on the Kay Adams show. A couple reasons why he explained over the last 2 years, we played 30 games. That's a lot for college football. 14 2 years ago, 16 this year. And I just mentioned we've had 25 guys get invited to the NFL Combine the last 2 years. So we've got a lot of young players on our roster. We have 21 mid-year high school kids that just showed up. And so the development that's needed for these guys to get ready for the fall is a little bit different than it used to be. He also goes on to say our approach is going to be a little bit more NFL driven, kind of more of an OTA style early on. And as we grow into more of the scrimmage formats in the second half of spring ball, that I just don't know if the rolling the ball out, playing the game when we only get 15 practices is the best for us to maximize the opportunities that we get. So it's going to be a little bit of a different approach, but I think college football is changing right now, and we need to do a great job as a coach of adapting to college football, and that's what we're trying to do. So again, like we said, you're playing way more games. You're expecting a lot more from these kids who, let's be honest here, a lot of them just came from high school. That is a big jump to go from college or from high school to college and then play all these games and then also play a spring game on top of that. So the worry for me, and I've heard this floated out there, and I kind of disagree with it, is it will hurt the local economies. I do agree with that in some towns. I do think in some towns that could hurt the local economy. I don't see that in Austin. I don't see that in like Lincoln. Those are pretty big towns that produce a lot of money year round, especially with the fan bases they have. Maybe there are some towns like Madison, Wisconsin. Let's be honest here. That's not a big economy. If they cancel their spring game, it probably would hurt the local economy and local businesses. So I think those smaller towns probably should stay with their spring game, or at least, hey, you make a lot of money as a football team. If you can't do that, maybe distribute a certain amount of money that local businesses lost, because it is important to those local businesses for the local economy. So I do see that side in certain situations. But I agree, like, at this point, it's kind of just a free practice for other teams to look at your roster and be like, hey, this guy that was third string's pretty good. We could use him. Why don't we offer him this? Whereas they're not going to be able to do that because unless they're spying on your practices, which, hey, could be happening. We don't know that. People have been accused of that in college and have done it in the NFL.
A lot of talk of drones.
Yeah. So, and hey, right next to the highway, I believe the practice field in Austin. So that wouldn't be that hard to spy on. Someone pull over to the highway, get your binoculars out and look out there. So, hey, and this is a billion-dollar industry. Teams would not shock me if they do that, but it does. That made it even easier for them to do the spring game. So I understand it. I do think it's cool. I do think it's a cool atmosphere. I do think they should pay back to the fans by maybe, having a day or two of like, they go out, open stadium, and like autograph session or something like that. I think that would be really cool. You can switch it up. It doesn't have to just be nothing completely. Maybe an adapted type thing, but we'll have to see. I'm not big into it either way, but I definitely understand it from the head coaching perspective.
Yeah, I would love to see them keep some of the Fan Fest stuff, keep the signatures and the autographs and all of that. I think, again, it is a fun event to take the family to, go meet the players, get some signatures, take pictures with the cheerleaders and hook them and all that. Like, I understand like the event side of it and the fan access side of it, because ultimately when push comes to shove, like, the fans are why they're out there. The fans are how they're able to subsidize these things. So like, I think adding in some sort of fan event or fan experience would be an interesting thing and a way to mitigate some of that. But I think having a fan experience and having a spring game can be two separate things. Right? Being able to get them out there. And again, looking after the health of student athletes is of the utmost importance to me, because football is a violent game. And even in the spring game where you're not going 100%, let's be real, right? Like, but it's just more wear and tear on the body. Football is a full contact sport. And so you have to be aware of that. They're playing more football than they ever have before. So again, there are a lot of logistic reasons I think it's the right move. And I think there's a way to mitigate some of what fans feel like they're losing in this. Again, have a fan fest, have an autograph session, have a whatever at the stadium, and get folks out there.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that. Like, you have to keep the fans engaged throughout the whole offseason, because let's be honest, it's a long offseason. And then also there are people that can't afford to go to the regular games. And this is like, they're get to go see Texas play football once a year type thing. So that does suck as well. So I definitely agree. You got to do something to keep the fan engagement going, because they're super important. Like, without fans, none of this exists. NFL doesn't exist. College football doesn't exist. Major League Baseball doesn't exist. None of it exists. So definitely important. You got to keep the fans in mind. And you've seen that throughout like professional sports as well. Like when ratings go down, those are leagues that don't keep their fans in mind. They don't really care about their fans. And when you alienate the fans, you're going to see it in the ratings. And we'll see. It's a new changing landscape of college football. I think in the next 5 years, you're going to either see ratings go up or go down. I really don't think it's going to stay in the middle because it's going to be a completely different sport pretty soon.
Yeah, I think they're setting themselves up for the future, and I think in a smart way. And it's going to be interesting to see how folks react, especially with the new talks of more changes to the playoff and things like that. It's going to be really interesting to see what college football is in the next 5 years.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've had 100 years worth of change in the last 5 to 6 years. So we'll see. Maybe we get another 100 years worth of change in the next 5 to 6 years. But again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. And also let us know your opinion. Do you want the spring game canceled? Do you not want it canceled? What is your, I guess, in-between solution as well? So please do that. Again, guys, we are here every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, rain or shine, off-season, in-season, does not matter. So we really appreciate you guys being here. You can find me right there on Twitter. That's my handle. I'm here at the Voice of College Football on the Texas channel, as is Gerald. That's his Twitter and his Blue Sky, as well as his Longhorn pod, which he does with his college roommate, I believe. Right, Gerald? Am I right in saying that?
Wasn't a roommate, just been a good friend.
Roommate. Okay, college friend. I always mess it up. I always say roommate. So please check them out as well. Wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever it may be, check them out there. And again, guys, this has been the 41st edition of Texas Longhorns Live. We really appreciate you guys being here. Again, we'll be back next Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And thank you guys for being here. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.